Mal Fletcher is a social commentator and futurist. Mal, welcome. Nice to talk to you again.
Hello, Stuart.
Hello there. Well, is it too late? Could we literally put these mobile phones down now?
Yes, I don't think it's ever too late. I think this is a very positive move on the part of the Pope because there is an abundance of scientific as well as anecdotal evidence that says we over-rely on gadgets for interpersonal communication. And that brings with it some challenges. For example, if you're Skyping or FaceTiming a friend, it might be a convenient way to stay in touch over time, but it rules out the use of subtle facial biometrics that are a key part of face-to-face communication. Mm-hmm. You know, whenever we speak to someone over a cup of coffee, for example, our brains are reading facial tone. They're reading body language of the other person, picking up subtle messages about the other person's emotions or state of mind. And I think that's a vital part of empathic responding, which is central to all relationships. But we don't get that using a phone like I'm using it now.
Mm. You're a futurist, though, and you're saying, actually, we should all be putting our mobile phones down. I would imagine in the future they would just become more and more integral in our lives. We won't be able to do without them soon. We can't maybe now.
Well, I don't think there's anything inevitable about that. I don't think that technology is destiny. We're not a product, or our future is not a product simply of the techs we use. It's a choice of how we use them. It's the human choice that makes the difference. There's a lot of studies too now suggesting that we are forming what we call transactional relationships with machines, including phones. So we don't remember what we read on our gadgets as much as we remember where we found it. We rely on the machine to store the actual information in its online databases or Pocket or Evernote or something. And we do that with people's names. Once we've consigned their business card to a phone app, we rely on the machine to have it at the ready the next time we read it. And that's quite a clumsy way of maintaining a relationship, especially if you want to have a close relationship. So I'm not advocating that we don't use the gadgets. They're great support mechanisms, but we should allow them to overtake the process.
It must be so hard now for parents of young children to know how to manage this, because there's so much pressure on them, not just obviously from them, but from their daughter or son's friends who are allowed to use their phone in certain situations. Another family will have another rule. It's very, very complicated. I don't know if in your own personal life, in your family, you've had to kind of decide these rules. But you can agree that, you know, what you describe is fine, but it's actually how do you manage this situation where children more and more rely on these things?
Yes, well, my children are young adults now, so they came along they were of age, teenagers, when social media first hit. And there was a great deal of pressure on them. I think two things. I think, first of all, you have to be careful as a parent at what age you give a mobile phone to a young person. Our rule, my wife and I here, was simply that you can't have a mobile phone until you can prove that you can use it responsibly as a relatively mature person. So you're not going to be sexting or doing anything like that. Second thing we always insisted on, it doesn't always work for people, but it did for us, is that meal times, the phones, including ours, are switched off or put in another room somewhere. So nobody's actually looking at their phone during a normal meal time, which is a very small portion of the day when you think about it.
Mm. It's interesting that you said that you do yours as well, because that's the thing, you know, it's not just young people who are the offenders here, is it? You know, we're all responsible.
Yeah, we are. And, you know, the other interesting thing for me about this whole question that the Pope has raised is that we're getting so much data now that it's affecting our decision-making. And there's a study, I don't know if you saw this, of judges not long ago that showed that if a judge hears a case of parole, either late in the morning, just before lunch, or late in the day, just before the end of session, the judge is more likely to leave a prisoner in prison. In other words, to take the default option of staying with the way it is, you know, retaining the status quo. Why? Because of the amount of information that a judge has to take in that session. So you put that into our world. We're taking in so much marketing information now online, some of it we don't even ask for. You only have to scroll through your social media to get, you know, you're being advertised to all the time. And I think that does, and there's studies now coming out to prove this, it is affecting how we make decisions, which again is not good for relationships.
It's almost like there's too much going on, isn't there, sometimes? And however we do it, sometimes it's great to try and take a step back. It's really interesting talking to you, Mal, and hearing your views on that. Have a happy new year when it arrives.
You too, Stuart.
Take care. Cheers. Bye-bye.